Has the Prime Minister's office or Conservative Minister of Foreign Affairs, Maxime Bernier, reacted to the situation in Darfur other than a financial donation?
Well, I think that the government as a whole has not demonstrated the necessary political, diplomatic, moral leadership that is required with respect to Darfur. We have not taken up our responsibility under the responsibility to protect doctrine, that where you have a situation as we do in Darfur of a genocide by attrition, we should be at the forefront as a country that in fact initiated the responsibility to protect doctrine. We should be at the forefront of the protection of those who are the reasons for having this doctrine, that whenever international crimes of war crimes, crimes against humanity, genocide are being committed against a target population, and the government, in this instance the government of Sudan, is either unwilling or unable to protect that population, or worse, is the perpetrator of those crimes, as it is in this instance, then there's an international responsibility to protect the population. That's where the international community must act so as to prevent this genocide by attrition. That includes, number one, putting in place a hybrid UN African Union civilian protection mission that has been authorized by the United Nations, and we have been at this point quiescent in terms of providing the necessary moral and political and diplomatic leadership to see that that hybrid mission is put in place as quickly as possible. Number two, to augment the resources of the African Union mission until the first hybrid mission is put in place. Number three, to see that UN Security Council resolutions, each and all of whom have been breached, that this culture of impunity by Sudan must end, and that Sudan must be held accountable, and there should be sanctions imposed on Sudan, and we should be there with other countries like the United Kingdom and France who've announced that they're prepared to impose sanctions on Sudan for their culture of impunity. We are members of international financial institutions that are proceeding with business as usual, providing debt assistance to Sudan unconditionally while the killing fields continue. We should be there providing enhanced humanitarian protection. There's some sense here where the government doesn't appreciate it. It seems to me that we've got 400,000 that have already died in this genocide by attrition. That we've got 4 million that are in desperate need of humanitarian assistance, where the, in fact, humanitarian protection system is itself on life support systems, where we've got ongoing, criminality that, as we speak, the bombardment and burning of villages, sexual predatory violence, abduction, and attacks on humanitarian workers. This is one of the great horrors of our time. And the Canadian government should be, as I say, exercising all the leadership that it can exercise, morally, diplomatically, politically, economically, militarily, with respect to put an end to this genocide.
You mentioned the United Nations. As Canadian ambassador to the UN, John McNee voted against a UN declaration on Aboriginal rights just this last week. Do you think his position and the government's position would be any more supportive of issues in Darfur?
Well, first of all, I'm opposed to what they did on the matter of the Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. During the time that I was Minister of Justice, the instruction that I gave was to support that declaration. I've seen no reason for the government having reversed the position that we took in concert with the international community at that time, and with particular regard to the rights and needs of our Aboriginal peoples. Having said that, on the issue of Darfur, I would like to think that the government, which said at the beginning of its mandate that they were going to have a vigorous diplomatic agenda. Well, where is the vigorous diplomatic agenda when you have such a quiescent approach with respect to Darfur?
Should Canada commit military support to Darfur as recommended by the UN Security Council? I mean, would it be a mistake if the Prime Minister shifted our troops away from Afghanistan and make Darfur a priority mission?
Well, the UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon said there are all forms of assistance that are particularly needed at this point. Assistance in the matter of logistics, in the matter of communications, in the matter of command and control functions, in the matter of equipment, in the matter of transport. All these are areas in which Canada, has a capacity to assist. And as to use the language that Senator Romeo Dallaire used, these are all force multipliers. If you assist in each and all of these things, then you're really assisting in the necessary military humanitarian intervention approach. I also believe with regard to troop and involvement, when I was a member of the cabinet, we were told that our involvement in Afghanistan would not prejudice having a troop component in Darfur. I still believe that's the case, that we can, at the same time as we have a presence in Afghanistan, have one in Darfur. But at the very least, in all those other areas that I mentioned of logistics, communications, and the like, we ought to be there, and we ought to be at the forefront, and we take pride in our having an expertise in those areas. And there's even a police civilian function with regard to this hybrid protection force that we could participate in. So we have been, in effect, absent in all of these areas where we can be making a contribution, which the Secretary General of the United Nations has specifically invited us to do in those specific areas where we can make that kind of contribution.
Will these peacekeepers have proper access to where the hotspots of action are in Darfur in order to be effective?
Well, they have been established not only under a UN Security Council resolution mandate, but under what's called a Chapter 7 mandate, which is a specific civilian protection mandate, which authorizes them, to go to the hotspots and authorizes them to use, the necessary force for purposes of protecting the civilians, which is their mandate to protect and to prevent the atrocities that are being committed. So yes, they can be deployed in those hotspots. In fact, that's the purpose of their mission, to go to the places where the humanitarian assistance is needed, so desperately needed, and to provide protection to secure that humanitarian assistance, to go to the camps and to make sure that the refugees and internal displaced persons are not, the targets of wanton attacks, to engage in overall civilian protection, and to fulfill their Chapter 7 mandate pursuant to this UN Security Council resolution to put an end to the killing fields.
Thank you very much, sir, for your time.
Not at all. Good speaking with you.